Welcome to Labor Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Abrantes, Assistant Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, the Carpenters Union.
And I'm Cyndie Williams, Executive Director of the CCT. Together as your co-hosts, we'll explore the world of organized labor, bringing you behind-the-scenes stories and insights from inspiring union leaders, dedicated partners, and community change makers. In each episode, we dive into authentic conversation to uncover what unions are really about beyond the headlines and the myths.
Whether you're new to the movement or a union ally, our conversation, showcasing diverse voices and real-life stories, will explore union hurdles, triumphs, labor's rich history, its role in workforce development, all while shedding light on how unions create lasting change and foster economic growth and creating generational wealth.
Join us as we build a broader coalition, elevate future generations, and showcase how unions contribute to creating a positive cultural legacy.
Tune in, get informed, and find out how organized labor is making a difference. Today, we are honored to be joined by Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. Lieutenant Governor Davis is the youngest Lieutenant Governor in the nation and the first Black Lieutenant Governor in Pennsylvania's history. His story starts in McKeesport, a former steel town, where he was raised by a union bus driver and a mom who ran a small business as a hairdresser. Those early experiences shaped his lifelong commitment to working people and the communities that built his state. From representing the Mon Valley in the State House to now serving as Lieutenant Governor, Austin has been a champion for workforce development, expanding apprenticeship programs, and advancing worker safety across the Commonwealth, ensuring Pennsylvanians have access to good jobs, safe workplaces, and support strong families and thriving communities. Thanks for being here, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's great to be with you today, and it's always a pleasure to be with the folks who are fighting for working class families here in Pennsylvania.
And we appreciate you certainly being here. Looking forward to connecting with you, getting to know you a little bit better, but I had the pleasure to speak to you briefly at our graduation in Pittsburgh, and you were an amazing speaker, so I'm looking forward to connecting with you today. So let's get right to it. Your father was a union bus driver, and you've spoken about that and how it shaped your upbringing. Can you just talk about your union household influence and how those values and perspective have shaped organized labor for you in Pennsylvania?
You know, one of the things that I realized really early from my dad's experience is that organized labor creates ladders of opportunities for folks to succeed, for working class families to succeed, to build generational wealth in ways that aren't necessarily thought about every day as you're going through school. So, one of the things that I'm grateful for, I'm a first generation college graduate. That would not have been possible without my dad's union. That would not have been possible for my sister either, who's also a first generation college graduate, without having that stability and those family sustaining wages to create a foundation for us to go on and do great things. I can tell you, I would not be Pennsylvania's first Black Lieutenant Governor if it wasn't for the role that unions play, not just in my family, but across our Commonwealth. And I want to make sure that every family has that same opportunity, that young people coming out of high school today know that they have multiple opportunities to succeed. Not everyone should go to college. We want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to get into an apprenticeship, to join a union and to go to work and to earn livable wages to support them and their families.
Well, you really hit the nail on the head there, because one of the things I was going to ask you is most people think of unions and how they increase people's wages or get access to healthcare or access to retirement, but they don't necessarily talk about, you might have changed one person's life, but at the end of the day, you changed their family's lives. You changed the community. You created generational wealth. And I think that's one of the things that we fail to appreciate that unions bring to the table. And I think part of that might be, and I'm also a first generation kid that went to college, coming from a union household, so I reaped some of the same benefits you did. But one thing I did learn is that we are generations beyond folks predominantly working in blue collar, manufacturing, skilled trades, technical jobs like the state of Pennsylvania offered for decades. And I think for a couple of generations now, the majority of young folks went on to higher education. They went on to college. And it wasn't their mom or their father or their grandmother or grandfather that was, a blue collar worker. It was a few generations ago. And I don't think they fail to appreciate all the stuff that working class blue collar folks brought to the table for those same white collar workers to reap the benefits of. And I think for yourself or myself, I'm always out there talking to people that might not necessarily know the story of our ancestors and why we got what we got. And it wasn't because of white collar America, it was because of blue collar America. And I think that's an important story to tell, because everybody benefited from that.
Absolutely. How do you think we got a 5-day work week? How do you think weekends? How do you think business hours of operation? All of those things came to fruition because of unions and organized labor, because people stood up to fight for their rights against folks who wanted to take advantage of them. So many of the things that folks, quite frankly, take for granted today, they have because of unions and organized labor.
Yeah. You mean businesses didn't want to give us that stuff?
No, they did not.
Yeah, you're right. 36 reasons to thank a union. Actually, we have it right here behind us as all the reasons in the world why unions were important for this country, regardless of what industry you went into.
And look, it's not by accident. It's not by accident that every year or every day there are forces and folks in this country who are seeking to destroy the union way of life, right? It's not because they recognize that they will profit off the backs of destroying workers and working class families, which is why folks like us fight so hard to make sure we protect the right to organize, to push back against right to work efforts across not just Pennsylvania, but across this country, because we want workers to have a voice.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say beyond that, maybe you could just talk about how unions create the cornerstone for communities, right? Like even going back in your own history and growing up, just knowing that the area that you grew up in, and I don't know if it was rural Pennsylvania, but certainly an area that was dependent on these union households.
So I grew up in the Mon Valley region of Allegheny County in the shadows of U.S. Steel. So I grew up behind the Irvin Works, the Edgar Thompson Mill, and back in the day, the McKeesport Tube Works. And so I'm the grandson of a railroad foreman and a steel worker. And labor unions really created stability for families. They made sure that they could afford to buy a home, that they could set down roots, and that they could give a good life. And that's the same things that unions are providing every day to their membership across this country. They're providing stability, hope, and opportunity.
So one of the things that you worked on in the state of Pennsylvania has been doing a wonderful job under your leadership is ensuring that we're investing in workforce development, particularly apprenticeship. What are some of the probably most promising initiatives that you see right now that you might be working on or that are coming in the near future that are going to advance those efforts?
You know, one of the things that Governor Shapiro and I firmly believe is that every Pennsylvanian should have the freedom to chart their own course and live the American dream, no matter what that looks like for them and their family. And for some folks, that's college, but for others, that means an apprenticeship or starting a new business here in Pennsylvania. And we've got to respect and invest in all those paths to success. That's what we've done as an administration for the past 2.5 years. We've increased funding for career technical education and apprenticeship programs by nearly $65 million. Today, Pennsylvania invests 50% more in the workforce development than when we took office. There are more than 1,400 registered apprenticeship programs in Pennsylvania and nearly 17,000 active apprentices. And so we've done that work just in the last 2.5 years, and we're going to continue to build on that as we come into the closeout of this first term of our term in office, and hopefully and beyond.
Yeah, and I think not only that, you guys have done a great job in attracting and retaining businesses, which is just as important to work alongside workforce development. And we always talk about, ourselves, like, we believe in capitalism as long as it's capitalism with a conscience. And you can be profitable and make money as long as you're taking care of working class people. And I think Pennsylvania has been the messenger for that and has resonated significantly in the industry. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we have to make sure that we create an economy that works for everybody, that works for the business owner in Philadelphia, but also the little guy in McKeesport where I grew up, who's just trying to put food on the table and send his kids to get a good quality education. We got to make sure it works for everyone, and that's what Governor Shapiro and I have been laser focused on during our time in office.
With that said, workforce is changing, technology is changing, energy infrastructure and the industries that we're utilizing are all changing and adapting as we go here. The state of Pennsylvania has just been really successful in just trying to line up some of its jobs. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about some of the new things that they've been, working behind the scenes to make sure these jobs are going union. Can you help me understand a little bit?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we've done really early in our investment or our administration is making sure that we're seeding investments that are going to grow and pay off in the future. And what we're seeing is those investments early on are already paying off. We earlier this summer announced the biggest capital investment in Pennsylvania history, a $20 billion project from Amazon to build a new state-of-the-art data centers across the Commonwealth. As part of that deal, we're committing $10 million to support targeted workforce development efforts at schools, community colleges, and union halls across Pennsylvania to expand VOTEC and create CTE classes and build new training centers. That's going to support Pennsylvania workers and expand our workforce to meet the demand that these data centers are going to bring.
And the one thing that I recognized in that leadership is obviously you want to continue to attract those large corporations that are going to bring investment and economic growth to the state of Pennsylvania. But you also would ensure that there's good policies in place to make sure that good middle-class jobs are created while also ensuring there's a safe workplace. So, you guys have been finding that balance, which is a hard balance to find, but you guys have the recipe to do that. And, we commend you for doing that as well.
Hopefully the rest of the country sees what we're doing in Pennsylvania as a model that we can expand all across America, because we can and must do both.
You can make profit and pay people well and allow them livable wages. It's not a hard recipe. It just may take a little bit of planning and a little bit of community effort and help.
Can you touch on a little bit of, because you guys are really focused on and really the nation's looking at you guys as a hub for energy generation, whether it's clean energy, renewable energy, whatever it is, you guys are doing it all. Can you talk a little bit about your energy commitment?
Yeah, so we have the governor earlier this year rolled out his energy plan. We have been trying to bring both sides together here in the Commonwealth to make sure that we can establish a reset board that would help expedite projects faster here in the Commonwealth, particularly in some of the renewable green energy space. We know that a lot of those projects have gotten hung up at the local level. We have been working very hard to bring Democrats and Republicans together. We have run into some resistance in the Pennsylvania State Senate, which unfortunately, this is an area where I think Democrats and Republicans can come together to make sure that we're creating a cleaner economy, to make sure that we are not sacrificing our energy future or jobs. To the point earlier, we can do both. And we're asking folks to kind of take off their red jerseys and their blue jerseys and to put on their Pennsylvania jerseys and come together.
I love that phrase. You actually mentioned that at our graduation, and the whole room lit up when you said that. Take off your red and blue jerseys and put on your Pennsylvania jerseys. I think it resonates with people. We're all willing to have pride for our state. I think Pennsylvania is doing it right, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, the politics of today is often so divisive. We have to figure out a way to bring people together. And there are a few things that do that. Everybody, no matter who I talk to across Pennsylvania, cares about having a family sustaining job. They care about economic opportunity. They care about making sure that their kids are going to get a quality education to go on and live the American dream. They care about living in safe communities. And I think we should focus on the things where folks can come together. That's what the governor and I have tried to do in this deeply partisan time. And I think we'll all end up better off from a government perspective, but also from a political environment perspective when we come together.
Yeah, I think people take for granted that if we actually sat down at the table and talked about what's really important to us, that we actually have way more in common than we could ever imagine. It's just other people are telling the story.
Yeah, and it's not about, me getting everything I want or the opposition getting everything they want. It's about how do we compromise to move the Commonwealth forward in a way that delivers real results for the people that we're trying to represent.
And I think that's resonating too, even in this New Jersey gubernatorial election. The state of Pennsylvania is getting kudos on both sides of how you're running your state. So that really speaks to both parties, and it's been interesting to watch. But you're certainly a bellwether for some folks to strive for. So thank you for that.
Well, if the folks in Washington, D.C. would take a note from what we're doing here in Pennsylvania, I think we'd be in a much better situation as a country.
Yeah, we'd agree with that. I'm glad Pennsylvania is part of the Carpenter's jurisdiction that at least we oversee, because it's been a blessing in disguise for not only our employers, but our members who really had the opportunity to grow in their communities.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And really, just in closing, what does the future look like for labor unions in the state of Pennsylvania, and how would you like to see that shaped in the future?
Well, I think the future of labor unions and workers in Pennsylvania is strong. We're seeing new organizing efforts all across the Commonwealth, at universities, at hospitals, and coffee shops. I was a young person who cared about my community, and that's why I got involved in public service. But there are lots of ways to be of service, and one of the ways is to organize your workplace and to serve your fellow workers in a union. And one of the things that I always want to be clear about here in Pennsylvania, as long as Josh Shapiro and I are in charge here in the state capitol, right to work is dead and union organizing is alive. And we're going to do everything we can to protect the right to organize here in the Commonwealth, because everyone deserves better work, a better workplace, better and safer and stronger wages.
Yeah, the one thing we've been seeing across the country is that the popularities of unions, which had declined for a couple of decades, is on the rise, and it's not necessarily because of construction, but it's all the industries that you're referring to. I mean, it's at higher education, it's in retail, it's in industries we would have never thought of, but that's a good thing, right? And I think us finding that balance of ensuring that we can help rebuild the middle class, regardless of if you're a blue collar worker or a white collar worker. It's important for society, and it benefits government, it benefits the state, benefits our communities, and everybody wins at the end of the day, including the business community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win. And I think to the point earlier, we need to stop making everything about us versus them. Everything's not a fight or a competition. We can all come together and lift all tides.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate you taking the time, and we appreciate the great work you're doing in the State House, and we look forward to working together with you in the near future.
Well, thank you guys. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to seeing you guys out there when I'm on the road.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Thank you.